Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Bezzubetz, and I'm proud to be President and CEO of the Royal, one of Canada's leading mental health and research centres where clients receive best-in-class care informed by cutting-edge research so that they can live their best lives. I would like to thank Rogers TV for the opportunity to host our Conversations at the Royal, where you're going to hear from many of our amazing clinicians and researchers who are passionate about the care they provide and the research that will lead to novel treatments and new discoveries in mental health and substance use disorders. Today, we are exploring a concept that I'm very passionate about and one that's driving the Royal's transformation, and that is lived expertise. Clients live with their mental health conditions every day, and they provide important insights into their care plan and recovery. Today, I'm joined by two amazing people with lived expertise who've become important client advocates in working with my team on improving care and paving the way to the development of client-oriented research at the Royal. With me is Glenda O'Hara, Chair of the Client Advisory Council of the Royal, and Kevin Patrick, a client advocate and research advisor at the Royal. Welcome to both of you. Let's begin by defining what is lived expertise. Would you like to go first, Glenda?
Oh, sure. Gosh, there's no one that knows better what it is to live with mental illness than someone who has definitely had the experience. I find that being joined in groups by people and leading groups of people that have lived experience, we definitely lift each other up and support one another. And also, I find that staff and management are very open to the different perspective we bring on, improvements we may see, or things that worked, things that didn't work. Gosh, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we've just recently, we used to call it lived experience, and now we're calling it lived expertise because that is what we have, and that is what we can share when we tell our stories to people to help them try to understand what it's like and what the needs are in the mental health field, what just on a personal level people can do to help reduce stigma. Yeah, I don't know. Kevin, do you have anything else that you think you can add to this lived experience discussion?
Sure. Well, put it simply, if you have lived experience, that means you've been diagnosed at some point with a mental health challenge. And so that journey that you're taking for that moment is your lived experience. You gain a lot of knowledge. Myself, for instance, I live with schizophrenia and the voices that come with it. My lived experience is that duration of time and the experiences I have and the expertise I've gained while I've gone through the last number of years. So my view of it is it's an internal education. I'm like the CEO of my own life. And that to me means lived experience. I kind of have a university degree in mental illness.
Sorry about that, Kevin. I tripped over your last words there. Do you mind repeating that?
Oh, I just said that I feel like I have a university degree in my expertise.
Great. And what I'm hearing from both you and Glenda is that you are experts in yourself, and that is gained through time that you've had living with your experience with your mental health condition, and that while professionals bring a set of skills and tools and knowledge because of what they have learned academically or in a practical sense, you really round out the picture because you are living that same experience, and you know things about yourself that are unique to you and quite personal, and are related to your experience and your care. And I think this is where the term lived expertise is derived from. It's really adding that credibility to those experiences that you have with your mental illness and how you've overcome certain challenges with your mental illness. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. Those are
Yes,
beautiful
I
words.
think so. Yeah. So,
So my next question is about how you work with other health professionals, because you're a professional in yourself and your care needs. But how would you explain to a health professional what your lived expertise is, and what would you say to a professional about what you bring to the table is important? Maybe we'll start with you this time, Kevin, and then we'll move to Glenda.
For me, lived experience with it's kind of it's my passion. I've learned to help other clinicians and other other clients and family members. My experience allows me to relate very strongly with these, whether they're staff or whether they're other clients and families. So that provides for me is kind of my definition of the work that I do. I kind of see myself in that. So that's my first thoughts. Glenda?
well, certainly, the Royal is moving to more client and family centered care. So we clients have the opportunities to be involved at many levels. Kevin and I were both involved in the strategic planning from the very beginning. We were part of the initial working group. And, there were times where the client and family members around the table definitely had a different view on what was perhaps in the forefront of our mind, what was important uh, to be included in this plan. And Kevin and I, for instance, were very big on hope being incorporated. And once we started working with consultants and having strategy hives, we just kept going back to some of these basics that we felt were very important to just keep in the forefront when you're you're dealing with care and mental health and research. And in the end, our expertise was listened to. Hope is generally actually a very integral part of our new strategic plan. But I've sat on program meetings at different levels, and let's say they were talking about program evaluation, and I come back to hope again, and I said, well, if you want to measure how successful a client's recovery is, it would be nice to be able to measure how much hope they have. And, that discussion was listened to, and now they've added a hope measurement to their program evaluation in this department. So definitely, I've been in meetings where we're doing polls, and I might be the only client there, and we're answering questions, and then I observe I have a totally opposite answer from everybody else in the room who, our staff and management and people like that. And, I said, hey, I'm the only client here, and I have a different view of this. And, people are taking notice and taking that to heart and realizing that we do have this really important expertise that has to be paid attention to. Um, yeah, I think that's all I have to say for
Yeah.
now.
Wonderful. And thank you both to yourself and Kevin for your participation in the development of the Royal's new strategic plan that you referred to. And you're right, hope is a centerpiece in that strategic plan. The title of it being Co-Creating Access, Hope, and New Possibilities. And that insertion of hope did happen because it resonated so much with clients and family members who joined us in the development of our strategy. So what does hope mean to yourself, Glenda? And then we'll turn to Kevin to give us the same answer. Tell us a little bit more about why hope is important.
Oh, goodness. I mean, in my journey, I came from a very hopeless place at the beginning of my journey. But I come from Ottawa, and I had hope that when I came back to the city, I knew that the Royal was a place that can help me. So my hope was to get a connection there, which happened. And then, there were staff, physicians, and peers that just helped the hope build in me, because at times in your journey, things may be you may not have a lot of hope. And I always say that, if you don't feel hope, have someone that supports you hold the hope for you until you can hold it for yourself. And, that's definitely what people in the mental health field do, because not always do we have people in our personal lives that provide hope to us. They don't understand. Family and friends disappear when you start telling your true story about your mental health. And like the Royal is a place where you can walk in the door and there's no stigma, and you feel hope, and it just builds you up and makes you realize that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's more things that you can do in your life that you never thought you could do. Because we talk about stigma, and a lot of it is self-stigma too. So I've definitely learned in my journey with all my supports that I've had through women's mental health. There's a lot of peer support there. I had a wonderful doctor that I worked with. The other staff, like occupational therapists and people, they were so integral. They treated me like a real person that maybe I wasn't feeling in other areas of my life. And they really helped me find my hope and realize that, life was really worth living, and I had a lot of living to do and a lot to give back. And anyway, I think, yeah, that's what hope means to me. Kevin, over to you.
But I've got a short story that I like to use around hope. And that is, it would be 5 years ago now when I became an inpatient at one of the hospitals around Ottawa. All I was doing at that point was surviving. It was nothing else I could do but just get out of bed and just survive. And what's happened is when I came to the Royal, for the first time I met with my doctor, she gave me hope. I had just a sliver of hope for the first time. And I built that over the 15 months that I was at the Royal. I was able to build upon that hope. And it didn't stop at that point. I was getting prepared to go out and be discharged, and other things made my hope greater. It was the kindness of the staff on getting me ready. I found a beautiful home. It took me 6 months, but I found a beautiful place. Ancora is the name of the place where I lived with friends who are also Royal clients. And that gave me a foundation. It began at the Royal, where hope was starting to sliver, and it grew from that point forward into my discharge. And then now it's been 3 years that I've been outside of the Royal now, and I have more hope now than I ever have. When I left the Royal, when I was at the Royal, I was doing all I could do just to kind of survive, but with massive hope. What's important, though, is that I didn't think I could ever work again at that point. So when I discharged, that's what I thought. And I've been volunteering now for over 2 years now at the Royal. And that has allowed me to volunteer, has turned into work that I can actually do someday. And so now I'm growing at the same time. So hope for me is a wonderful path, and I've had a great journey thanks to the Royal.
Those are amazing stories, Kevin and Glenda. And I have an image, Kevin, as I was listening to you describe how it started as a sliver of hope, but it built and built and built over time. It was almost, I was imagining to myself, it's like putting hope in a bank, and there's growth there. And you may have to withdraw on it periodically, but as long as you've got enough saved in there that you can always go back, and there's room for more hope. And I like what Glenda said as well, that if you can't hold the hope yourself, somebody else can hold it for you. It's just, I think these images are amazing testament to the importance of hope, and how having others in your lives that recognize there is hope is so meaningful, and really helps you along your journey. So thank you very much for sharing those very important images. It brings me to the next topic that's related to hope. And, I think hope is very important right now, particularly to people who might be experiencing mental health or substance use disorders for the first time as a result of the pandemic, or people who had an underlying mental health or substance use disorder prior to the pandemic that's really kind of surfaced and become, something more significant in their lives because of other stressors. So, I think the whole conversation around hope is very important. And close to that is the topic of resilience. And I have a little image in my mind. I've got all kinds of these little images, but the one that I like to use for resilience is, the cartoon character for children, Buzz Lightyear. And Buzz is always, upward and onward, and, always looking forward to, okay, what's the next challenge? Leave this one behind and let's keep moving forward. So I'm really curious to hear from both Kevin and yourself and Glenda about resilience, and, how you, what's your definition of resilience, and what's your go-to when you need that little injection of extra resilience? And I'd like to start with Kevin this time and then go to Glenda.
Thank you very much for that, Joanne. Resilience to me is the ability to overcome challenges of all kinds, traumas, tragedies, serious mental illness. That's what I kind of define. And the interesting part is not just being in those moments, it's how you bounce out of those moments or come out of them. And that time frame could be an hour, a week, a year. The time frame to come through. So resiliency is something that builds as well and stays with you. Resiliency for me is self-care, for instance. Every morning I do the same routine. Every night I do the same routine. And getting good sleep, physical health, exercise, and eating well, that helps the resiliency as well. keeping in routines as well with me. Friendships and partnerships and relationships that I have, they are incredible ways of moving forward. I also joined like a faith-based church, that kind of thing, that you can expand yourself there, so you get support by more groups. It's important to have friends around you. When I first came to the Royal Hospital, I had 2 friends, and that's all I had for about 10 years. When I was in the recovery program at the Royal, that friendship grew to about 8 people I met. I'm still friends with all of them today. Now I have about 20 to 30 friends now. Resilience to me allows me to work with my friends, have my friends listen to me and be involved with me, and they care for me. That's a beautiful thing, and that's part of how I do resiliency as well. The other part of it is, I'll give you an idea of something that's close to me. I was in living in my car a number of years ago. I was homeless and living in my car. And during that time, I kept going forward. Even though I was homeless, I kept going forward. I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I didn't allow myself to fall into a trap. Unfortunately for me, I was blessed with one thing: positive thinking. And that positive thinking has helped me overcome all the challenges in my life, whether when I was homeless or when I was with a Royal or wherever else I've been. That positive thinking, that positive attitude has been my blessing. So I feel for that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. That's a powerful story. How about you, Glenda? Tell us about your resilience.
Oh gosh, you know what? I feel like I'm more resilient now than I've ever been in my life, and I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of tools I've learned along the way in my mental health journey. Groups I've taken, and a lot of times just being in a group of peers, and I facilitate a group called Wellness Recovery Action Plan, and a lot of it is like we just kind of share ideas of what could be wellness tools for you, because everyone has their own set of tools. What are early warning signs that we're not doing so good, and or even go when things are breaking down a little further, and we come up with our own personal plan of how we're going to navigate the future for ourselves, because mental health recovery doesn't go like this. It goes whoa, and you never know when things are going to change, and you're going to have a little bit of a bad time. And I feel like just I think since I've all of these tools and little signs for myself, I'll go on a group and I'll say, I don't have a lot of pick up and go lately, but I can identify the reasons why, and that's very powerful. Identify what I need to do to get over this hump. So, before I had a diagnosis earlier in my life, I mean, I was floundering because I didn't have this little toolbox that I could hold on to and know what I could do. Things like your sleeping patterns, your eating patterns, things, knowing things that might trigger you is just being better prepared. And like I said, I feel like more resilient and hopeful now than I've ever felt in my life. And one of the biggest tools I've got is the volunteering at the Royal, because it just because I volunteer on so many levels, I get to see changes that have been made, changes that are, and I've been cited this past year about the direction things are going, and now I just want all the rest of the clients out there to feel as excited as I do about, changes that are going to be coming, and that hope makes me very strong and resilient for sure.
Thanks. It's really interesting because there's a common thread between what you just talked about, Glenda, and what Kevin said earlier, and what I'm picking up that's important for our audience to hear, and I'm sure everyone's heard now, that you don't have to do things alone, and that part of the toolbox does include reaching out for others when it's too much for you to handle by yourself, whether it be friends or family or peers or others who have gone through a very similar experience. And I'm really detecting a lot of excitement from both you and Kevin in your recent experiences over the past couple of years with the Royal. And as I introduced you, I did mention that you were highly involved in the development of research initiatives at the Royal. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit and ask both of you to talk about why you think it's important for other people who are experiencing mental health and substance use disorder challenges, who have lived expertise, for them to participate in the development of research studies like we are doing at the Royal. Why is that important? Why should people get involved? Why should people come forward? Glenda, I'll start with you because I know this is close to your heart too.
Yes. Research, research used to be, for me at the Royal, it used to be something very separate. And, at our Client Advisory Council a couple of years ago, we were proactive and we thought, we want to connect with these people. We want to learn more about them. And so we had a little retreat and we invited a bunch of the researchers from the Royal to come and discuss their research. And we got to ask them questions and give them some feedback. It's like, a lot of us want to be involved in research, but maybe the research that was happening, we don't fit the criteria. And I hear a lot of changes. We have clients and families on research committees now, and they're really starting to be interested in doing research that's really important for clients and families. They're really looking for their input right from the beginning, co-designing and laying the groundwork for what's going to happen. Sure, our new CEO and president of the IMHR, the research wing at the Royal, she obtained that post and immediately reached out to have some input from clients and families. And, a lot of us have been involved in applications for research. And I really feel like we even have like family members that have gone and actually developed the research project that has been accepted and embraced by the research people at the Royal. And, I think we as clients and families, we're realizing on a lot of levels, including research, that we can be an important part. We don't have to be afraid of being involved in something. We can gain understanding and we can give input, and we can make sure what the direction of research is, and that it's research that's important to us. And we can contribute in lots of ways. We can be a participant, but we can also be involved in co-design and a lot of different areas of research. So I feel like we have embraced research and research has embraced us. And I see nothing but, a wonderful relationship continuing in the future.
Thank you, Glenda. How about you, Kevin? I introduced you as a research advisor So what does being involved in research entail for other clients who might be interested or family members who might be interested in such a role? And why is being involved in the development of research important for clients and family members to participate?
Well, I think my excitement begins with when you look at the Royal Strategic Plan, where they're looking at world leadership for client and family research. And that's just not just a local Ottawa, that is worldwide. I got motivated by that aspiration and to be the leaders in client and family research. For me, that's really exciting. What's where I came involved is after during the strategic planning process that I was part of, research was kind of introduced to me at that point. And after I heard the royal staff and during the strategic hives and later how much research value is there, I got really excited. It's a perfect opportunity. You can do research in a number of different ways. For families and clients, being the client advisory council is one way that you can actually get involved, and then from there you can get into some research teams. Like for me, just yesterday, Glenda and I have me involved now in a schizophrenia research program for the next year that I'm well qualified for because of my mental health at the Royal in the schizophrenia unit. So I'm actually participating in the research as well. And that's what has me really excited. I'm actually on 3 research groups where I'm doing co-design with that. And that's exciting. And I think it's a great opportunity for clients and families to participate in activities that the Royal are doing. And from that first step, you get bigger steps and more opportunity. The Royal has transformed itself to clients and families, and I am very excited by all of this. And that's my comment. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And, the importance of research to the future of mental health and substance use disorders is so that we can act sooner. We can provide preventative measures at a younger point in someone's life. We might be able to recognize a condition as it is in its infancy and developing. We can marry the art of mental health and substance use treatment by bringing science and psychotherapy closer together, the ability to investigate the brain and have insight into what we might learn so that we can treat sooner and avoid some of the longer treatment trials that occur on an individual basis. These are some of the things that we're trying to change with our research at the Royal. We want to make people's lives better, and we want to do that sooner and as quickly as possible. Both of you have given wonderful examples as to why your particular expertise makes you an expert in participating in research initiatives, and I think you've shared that very openly. One of the other things that we're very interested in at the Royal, and you've talked about a little bit earlier, but I want to hear more from both of you, is about the integration of research and care. So that's one of our very important aspects going forward. Part of the strategy is that we don't want research occurring at one place and then care happening at another place. We want to be like other healthcare areas where they do research and they change the care based on research sooner. Can you talk about, based on your expertise, why it's important to have a closer relationship between research and care? I'm going to start with Kevin this time, and then we'll go to Glenda.
I'm a real big advocate of care and integration of research into that care. I think there's ample opportunities for clinicians and clients and families to get involved. To me, in the past, it was a different silo. You had a silo that did research, and we didn't know that. And in my case, I didn't know a lot about what was going on there. Care, I could see as well in the units, program units that I was involved in, and I can see care. But what's the most magical part about this is that you are now integrating the research part with care. And in my mind, that's the perfect opportunity to find new ideas and new solutions, because you're integrating someone's thought process for how a researcher thinks about it with those who care and serve the clients and families in their practices as clinicians. So in my mind, the integration of research and care takes the Royal to a whole new level. It's a global level. The one thing about the Royal that I learned in the market research I was part of over the last couple of years, the Royal's brand is incredible. It is the strength. It shows leadership. It's part of the community. The people that are inside it demonstrate worldwide care and worldwide research. Like these aren't things that we're just not a local Ottawa hospital. We're a world, at least Canadian-wide, worldwide type of direction we're heading. That to me is possible because of the recent strategic initiatives and what the CEO has brought in with the leadership team. They've integrated research and care. They've taken down the walls that were there. And now we're like a hospital without walls now. I love that expression. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Kevin. You're talking about the hospital without walls, which we've been, promoting for quite a few years. And as much as we want to be bringing services from in the hospital into the community, closer to neighborhoods, closer to where people live, we also want to ensure that within the Royal that we don't have any of those artificial walls either. So thank you very much for mentioning the hospital without walls. And Glenda, what about you? Why is it important to integrate research and care? Tell us a bit from your perspective.
Well, I mean, I think that the purpose of research in the mental health field should be, to improve care in the future. And, I echo Kevin's talk about like breaking down the silos and stuff. I've definitely seen in program teams that I'm part of that not only have clients and families been made part of the team, but there's also a researcher that's part of the team. And, there's excitement. I mean, like in mood and anxiety, the new esketamine clinic that will be operating shortly. I mean, research in this area been done for a while, and now it's being put into action. It's being put into care, and we've got a team that has clients and families and staff and researchers part of it. So it's going to be involved in improving care with people that have treatment resistant depression, but it the data that will come out of the use of this clinic will be used in research to probably add more improvements in the future for care of people with this type of depression. So I'm seeing it in action, and I think of when I first started volunteering at the Royal, I think there'd be an annual event where people would kind of exhibit their research, and I observed that it seemed to be just other researchers there. And I think about our little event that we had with our client council and the researchers, and that it really opened eyes for us as clients, but also the researchers, and it just made understanding so much better. So maybe after the pandemic, when we're going to be exhibiting the research that's being done at the Royal, it would be wonderful to break down those walls and have people from the community and clients and families come and learn all about what we're doing. So we all just stay connected more. And I think just more and more things that translate research into changes in care are just going to be a wonderful thing that will happen in the future.
Thank you for that. It's true. And, we're noticing more and more that people from further and further away are becoming very interested in not only client initiatives, but also family initiatives. And, people from out of the region are realizing that we offer support for families and that we have resources. And, due to the pandemic, we also offer everything virtually. So your location matters a little bit less, provided you've got some form of internet and you can participate. So I think that's a little bit of a double-edged sword, but I appreciate what you and Kevin have just talked about, the importance of accelerating changes in care due to research. So I'm going to ask you a different kind of question now, because you did mention, Glenda, that you were looking forward to measuring changes in hope. And we know that there are measurement tools, there are a couple of them that we can use to measure changes in hope. And that becomes very important. I think we're hearing from clients that this is important to measure. I'd like to know, what else are clients and family members, or what are you as an expert looking forward to seeing measured? So, what can we include on our dashboard from your perspective as an expert in you that we should be measuring that maybe right now we're not measuring? What would that be? Hope is one of them. Is there anything else? And I'll start with you, Glenda, because it looks like you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I've been part of discussions about assessing recovery in people. And just like care, I mean, clients and families have to be involved more in the development of their care and where they want their care to go. And I mean, I've heard firsthand from clients and family members that, even if your loved one comes to the Royal and is very sick, they can still participate in decisions on care. Now I've lost my train of thought. What was the question again, Joanne?
We're talking about, that's okay. We're talking about what else should we be measuring from your perspective that maybe we're not measuring right now?
I think, in a lot of ways, measurements of how a client is doing, it almost, I know that in a large organization, it's good to have, templates and guidelines, but, one person's measure of recovery could be returning to work, and the next person's could be just being able to get out of bed every day. So I think that, these kind of measures need to be individual to some degree. Definitely very hopeful that using some of these methods to measure hope are going to be used soon, because hope is an individual thing as well. And if they start out on their journey and they say, what are your going to be your success measurements down the road when we've had some time to provide care? I mean, I think in general, definitely a measurement will have to be, I mean, we're breaking down stigma every day, but I think the fact that, maybe when people are ready to leave the royal and go out into the community, that I'd like to see everybody be loud and proud of who they are, and feel like, they have a future and they've got things to do. And a lot of us, our things to do is giving back and helping people in similar situations to ours. But like I said, I think measurements are, measurements of the success of a program can be, right now we have a lot of people, increase in people looking for access because these are very difficult times. And I know that, like, numbers as far as, wait times and things have increased a bit. But, I've seen in the past where wait times have been an issue and things have happened that, we can provide people with connections out in the community so they don't have to wait so long to have a touchstone for help. So all this data is a good measure as well. Part of our strategic plan is access, and, we've developed a lot of new things at the hospital, especially during the pandemic, the prompt care clinic that gets people access to speaking to people about their problems more promptly. And, I think definitely measurements of access and seeing those numbers improve is a goal that we have for the future. And over to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Glenda. Yeah, Kevin, what about from your perspective? What should we be measuring that maybe we're not looking at carefully enough right now?
And Glenda said many things. I'm going to focus on one or two. For me, what I've learned through the strategic planning process, one of the initiatives that I'm working on is Strategic Initiative 3.2, which is laying the groundwork for peer support and the resource up. In that work that we're creating, we're seeing large gaps in the outpatient area of discharge. So when someone is discharged, we don't know there's not enough contact. There's a gap. We don't know what's going on there as much. This isn't everywhere, but it's a place that I've seen in the last couple of months working on this, specifically with forensics, as I've been working mostly on it. And there's an opportunity to bring peer support to those groups. Now, what's important to realize is we like to measure those things before and after. So that to me, it's the transitional points coming into the hospital while they're in, like transferring from different units, like forensics that go from one unit to the next unit for the rehab, and then a transition to discharge. So it's also in the hospital where there's transitions, but there's also in the community. So when they transition the community, they need support. I don't think we have a good handle on what type of support to offer and how to do it. It's not everywhere, but it's many places. We have so many people that go in and out of the hospital. So for me, it's the measurement of those gaps that we're not addressing. And I'm kind of just giving a couple examples of them, but there are others as well. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. So we have just a few more minutes to chat with each other, and I'm learning so much today, and I'm sure people who are watching us are learning as well. But I would like to end on this very positive note of peers and the importance of peers. So if you don't mind, Kevin and Glenda, if you could just share with us the reason why you think peer support is important, and why are peers important as part of our mental health and substance use disorder system?
I'll start with that one. Peer support is a relationship, and we're not clinicians. We are experts in our mental illness, or experts in our life for expertise, and we can share that expertise. When listening to a peer, we can actually help that peer work through many things of their life, whatever they're interested in. We go shoulder to shoulder with those peers. And for me, it's a relationship. But where we come from is expertise in our medical health. And so that to me is what is the most important thing. It's the relationships. Just like I talked about a moment ago about going back at transition points, going back out of the community, those are perfect examples where relationships are needed. Even if it was just to have a cup of coffee with someone, it was a wonderful thing. But there's so many opportunities for support peers. In the forensics where I've been working with a lot, there's a lot of difficult transition points there. And it would be wise to have someone help them and just listen to what they have to say and build upon that relationship. And so you're building trust with people, and you're caring for them in a different way. They're experts in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Kevin. You, Glenda?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've been involved, in a lot of peer support activities at the Royal, especially in women's mental health, where, years back, my doctor walked me over there and said, look into the groups there. And I took them, and it was just a bunch of peers sitting around. The facilitators were peers. We've kind of borne many generations of facilitators of programs in the center, and they're totally peer run. And we start out by telling a story as facilitators, because we're further along in our journey, and it really gives people a lot of hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel for them. And also, a lot of the women feel like peer run groups and such, it really it's an added level of comfort. There's no power dynamic that exists in the clinical arena. So, I run a virtual. I help facilitate a virtual support group for women on Monday mornings, and I myself had a very difficult situation recently, and it was in that safe space with peers that I was able to really discuss what was bothering me, and finally have a little cry to let it out, and receive the support of my peers. And it was just so wonderful and supportive. And I just can't say enough about the value of peer support. It's really been an important part of my journey. And we keeping in contact with one another, and make sure each other is all right. A lot of your supports within the mental health community are just priceless.
Thank you very much. That is so uplifting. And Glenda and Kevin, I can't tell you how privileged I feel that you've let me in your space this afternoon, Friday afternoon, to speak with you about your expertise. We are so lucky at the Royal to have both of you as experts on our team. And I'm so privileged to have spent the afternoon, this hour with you, and learned so much. And I know that people watching our conversations today will be talking about what they've heard and what they've learned. and they'll want to know a little bit more. Again, thank you for everything that you do. Really appreciate it, as do many others. And I wish you well, and I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.